Hello and welcome to another episode of Prague's Tour Guide. My name is Patrick, and in today's video we'll focus on southern Prague. So previously in the video we covered the historical city center. We also went through Štvanice Log to northeastern Prague. We saw Libeň, Karlín, Holešovice. So in this video we'll go through Smíchov Log and we go see Podolí, Smíchov, all the way to Modřany. So let's check it out. So now we're leaving the Smíchov Lock, and here in front of us on the right side we can see a tower that's from the 16th century. We call it Little Quarter Tower. It was a little quarter water tower that supplied water to the Little Quarter. You know, historically in Prague there used to be 4 towers that supplied water to medieval Prague. One was in the old town and other 2 were in the new town. Yeah, so as you can see here, we can enjoy the beautiful panorama of the Prague castle. Now notice these waterfront apartment buildings. Those are from the late 18 and early 1900s, and there was a lot of inspiration in Paris. So they were copying Paris, and they're prime real estate today. Yeah, down here there are 2 hotels on the, well, it's one hotel on 2 boats. It's called Hotel Matilda and Clotilda. It's a restaurant and a hotel. And further behind the bridge, this is the Irásek Bridge, and behind we can see the dancing house. So the dancing house was built in 1996, and it's an example of modern architecture. The architect is Frank Gehry, famous Canadian architect from Toronto. And it was built on a spot of an older building that was destroyed by a bomb in World War II. So, you know, Prague was bombed by the Americans in February, on the 14th of February 1945. The Americans bombed in this range and they destroyed 180 buildings, killing 700 people. So one of the bombs hit over here, where the dancing house is. So for a long time there was nothing, and in 1996 they built the dancing house, which is a very unique building. It actually looks like 2 people are dancing. So the left part made out of glass, that's a lady. She's bending her back and she has a dress. The white part, that's her man. The ball on top is his head with hair. And the balcony is them holding hands. And we call them Fred and Ginger, after Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. And today there's a restaurant, and there's also a gallery, offices, and a hotel. That's, by the way, owned by Vladimír Šmicer, a famous football player that played for Liverpool, if I'm not mistaken. So we're gonna go further south. On the left side we'll have the new town, on the right side Smíchov area. So here on the left side, as you can see, there are a lot of people hanging out on the riverbank. It's called what we call Náplavka. So when locals say let's go to Náplavka, they usually mean here, and it means a riverbank. And this is a popular hangout spot for the locals. There are a lot of stationary boats, which are all bars. So especially in summer, in the evening, people hang out here, watch the sunset. You can see those huge windows on the left. You know, those used to be storages of wood. So they shipped wood from southern Bohemia, from Šumava Mountains, all the way to Prague. And they stored the wooden logs, they stored them in those holes. And later they put windows there and turned them into bars. So in front of us we have Palacký Bridge, named after František Palacký, famous Czech politician from the 19th century. and the big Czech nationalist, fighter for Czech independence. Back then we were under Austria. And on the right side we have Smíchov. So Smíchov is a neighborhood from the 19th century. It used to be industrial neighborhood, now it's residential and offices. In the 19th century it was the fastest growing neighborhood in Prague. And the word Smíchov, it's actually from the word smíchat, which means to mix, because there was a mixture of people from different parts of the country who came here to work in the factories. Now it's the third most expensive neighborhood in Prague, after Prague 1 and Prague 2. Ahead of us we can see a railroad bridge from the middle of 19th century. It's currently the third oldest bridge in Prague. There are 20 bridges in Prague. And they plan to renovate it. So actually only one train can go at the time because it's in a bad shape. So only one train can go over it at a time, and they have to go really slowly. I believe it's like 30 kilometers per hour. And on the right side you can see a chimney, and that belongs to the Staropramen brewery. So Staropramen is the biggest brewery in Prague, founded 1869. So that's a leftover of the industry in Smíchov. What perhaps you don't know is that they make the beer from the river. So when you drink Staropramen, you're actually drinking the river water. Yeah, luckily for you, they have water treatment in the brewery. So that's one of the biggest breweries in the Czech Republic, Staropramen. It means old spring from Prague. And here passing by is one of the oldest boats in Prague. It's called Steamboat Vltava on the right. It was built in 1940 during World War II. There are two steamboats, Vltava and Vyšehrad. One built in 1940, the other one in 1942. So those are the oldest steamboats in Prague. So they're doing river cruises with them right now. So as you can see today, there's a farmers market on Náplavka, on the riverside. So very often there are these different events, you know, people selling different food. Or right now, it actually doesn't look like the farmers market because it's Sunday. This farmers market is every Saturday. So today there's, I don't know, they're selling some clothes, maybe second-hand clothes. You know, this area where we got here, it's called Výtoň. And the word Výtoň is from the Czech word vytínat, because they used to ship wooden rafts. You know, they would tie wooden logs together and ship wood from southern Bohemia all the way to Prague and unload it here. And vytínat, like they would cut out like some portion of the logs. Like maybe you have like 10 logs tied up together, so they would take one, and there was the tax. So actually there's like a little yellow house with a red roof, and that's called Hostinec na Výtoni today. There's a restaurant there, but it's a former custom house, and they used to cut out those logs, you know, and that was the tax. And then up on the hill we have a Vyšehrad castle. Vyšehrad in Czech means upper castle. So Vyšehrad was a fortress that protected Prague from the south. It's the southernmost part of the city center. And in the Middle Ages, in the 14th century, everything between Vyšehrad castle, the upper castle, and the Prague castle was Prague. So Prague in the 14th century was the third largest city in the world after Rome and Constantinople. Yeah, there's a Basilica of St. Peter and Paul from 11th century, rebuilt in the 19th century. That's a seat of the Bishop of Vyšehrad. You know, Vyšehrad is also connected to many Czech legends. One of them talks about Horymír and Šemík. You know, Horymír was a Czech nobleman who was sentenced to death allegedly for destroying some gold and silver mines. And his last wish before the death was to ride his horse, his loyal horse Šemík. So they allowed him to do that, and then he took the horse and he rode it and he jumped from the walls into the river. And the king, he was so impressed by this deed that he actually pardoned Horymír. So that's a famous legend connected to Vyšehrad. You know, what's funny is actually that below Vyšehrad Rock, the river is the deepest. It's 9 meters deep. So that's probably good if you plan to jump with a horse from the rock. On average, the river is 4 meters deep in Prague. So now we're gonna go to Smíchov dock. So Smíchov dock was made at the beginning of 20th century when they built locks. In the early 1900s, they built locks in the weirs in Prague, and they made the river navigable all the way to Germany, to Hamburg. So suddenly they could bring cargo from the ocean to Prague. So they would bring cargo to Smíchov dock and unload it here and bring it to the factories that were in the area. You can still see some chimneys sticking out. Those are former factories. So today the factories are not active, with some exceptions like Staropramen. And Smíchov dock is actually used for recreational boats where they dock. There's some houseboats as well. A lot of the houseboats are Airbnbs, so if you want, you can rent them out. Yeah, here on the left side we can see the river police station. So this is where they dock in Smíchov. So actually sometimes you see them cruising around. They can control you. For example, if you have the license for the boat, or if you have the captain license, how many people are on the boat, if it doesn't exceed the maximum capacity. And they will also give you an alcohol tester, because unfortunately in the Czech Republic there's a zero tolerance for alcohol behind the boat wheel. So you can't even have one beer. So now we can see nicely the Vyšehrad rock and the leftovers of the fortification from the 14th century. And later the fortress was rebuilt in the 18th century. 17th and 18th century, 1650 until 1720, when they built the Baroque fortification around Prague. You can also see there's a tunnel from beginning of 20th century. So originally the rock kind of closed off the city, but at the beginning of 20th century they built a tunnel for people to be able to go through. And now we're leaving the city center. And this neighborhood ahead of us is called Podolí. So that's a high-end residential area right outside of the city center. A lot of nice houses. Right below Vyšehrad there's the biggest maternity hospital in the Czech Republic. 10,000 babies are born there. You can also see this black wooden building right by the water. That's the oldest yacht club in the Czech Republic from the beginning of 20th century. Also you can see a few high-rises further up on the hill in Pankráč. So there's a restriction on the height of the building, so these are the tallest buildings that can be built in Prague. The only exception is the TV tower with 216 meters. These are about a little bit over 100 meters. The latest addition is the V Tower from 2018. Those are luxurious apartments. And then we have that big white building with the green roof ahead of us, and that's a former water treatment. Actually, it's still used as a water treatment. You know, 12% of the water, of the tap water in Prague comes from the river, and that 12% is cleaned in this water treatment in Podolí. The tap water is clean in Prague, so you can drink it. You know, this area is also very popular for rowing, so very often they do contests, competitions. And if you look ahead of us to the right, they're building the newest bridge in Prague. So this will be the 20th bridge. It's called the Dvorecký Bridge. So it should be finished this year. So now we made it under Dvorecký Most, and this area on the left side here, that's called Žluté Lázně. Now Žluté Lázně, as you can see, it's a very popular area for the locals where they go swimming in the river, and historically it's been like that, and also today. There's beach volleyball courts. Last year there was a concert of Black Eyed Peas, so they even have concerts. There's some restaurants there. You know, the river is quite refreshing, so even on a hot summer day like today, when it's 32 degrees, the water won't be more than 20. It's actually colder than it should be because of the dams. So they built these dams in 1950s to the south of Prague, like Orlík and Slapy, and they cool down the water by 4 degrees. So naturally the river should be about 24 degrees. But now it's only 20. However, in the winter they do the opposite. So they warm it up. So instead of 0 degrees, instead of frozen, it's actually around 4 degrees. So the river doesn't freeze in Prague because of the dams. So now we'll go a little bit faster. From Vyšehrad Bridge further south, that's the railroad bridge we passed earlier. You can go as fast as you want. There's no restriction. So now behind us is Barrandov Bridge, and that was finished in 1988. It's a highway bridge, and it's named after the neighborhood Barrandov, which is over here. And Barrandov, that's famous for film studios. So many Hollywood movies were shot in Prague, and a big portion of them was shot in the studios, which are further up on the hill. For example, Mission Impossible 1 and 4, Born Identity, Casino Royale, Hellboy 2, Illusionist, Van Helsing, Triple X, Euro Trip, Gray Man, second Spider-Man movie, the second Narnia movie, and Extraction 2 that's currently on Netflix, and many others. You You know, they shoot it in the Czech Republic and in Prague, well, mainly because it's cheap, but also because it's pretty. And if you look to the right, up on the rock, there's a white building that's called Terasy Barandov, and that used to be a famous restaurant in 1920s and 30s, where rich people from Prague used to go, and it was owned by Havel family. And then when the communists took over, they confiscated all the properties of the Havel family, and they were actually persecuted. And the restaurant was shut down because it was a symbol of luxury. So unfortunately the restaurant is gone. You know, Václav Havel from that family later became the leader of the opposition in the 80s and the first Czech president after fall of communism. The airport is named after him. Here we have a swan family with baby swans. They say there are 500 swans living in Prague. They're protected by law. And now we're going to go further south, and we'll see the bridge of political prisoners, because it was built by political prisoners in 1950s. Actually, it's called Bridge of the Intelligence, because the political prisoners were mostly the intelligence. So in this section of the river, there's actually, they used to do ice harvesting. So when the river froze in the winter, they would collect the ice, chop it into blocks, and load it on horse carriages. They used to do that in the city center, but there's a factory still. We can't really see it very well because it's behind the trees, but they used to do ice harvesting there. Then after World War II, they invented refrigerators, so all the ice harvesters went out of business. So further behind the Bridge of the Intelligence, there on the left side is Modzany, which is a residential area. On the right side is Radotín, also residential. But we're still in Prague, so you can see how big Prague is. You know, Prague is actually 25 times 25 kilometers. Like 500 square kilometers. Is 4 times bigger than Paris by area. And approximately 1.5 million people live in Prague. You know, on Wikipedia you're gonna find 1.27, but they checked the phone operator data and they found out that there are 1.5 million people living in Prague. There's a popular track to ride along the river. You can go for tens of kilometers, just follow the river. And ahead of us we can see Modzany Lock. So we made it all the way from Smíchov Lock to Modzany. So guys, this is the end of our boat tour from Smíchov to Modzany. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to book a boat tour in person, feel free to check out our website, pragueprivateboat.com. You can also hit the like button or subscribe to our channel. And I'll see you next time. Take care.